Welcome to Pirate Money Radio with your host, Kevin Freeman, helping you unpack the economic headlines and providing real money solutions.
Ahoy, mates. Welcome aboard another voyage of Pirate Money Radio, the show that sails against the storms of fiat tyranny, cultural confusion, and counterfeit ideas to chart a course toward liberty, security, and values based on biblical truth. I'm your captain, Kevin Freeman, author of Pirate Money, coming to you from the heart of Texas. We've got Mike Carter here, and Mike, we have another special guest also, but I want to give you some genuinely encouraging news. I mean, we've had some bad things we've had to deal with, but I've got good news today, but mixed with a few important cautions. It's called Trump Accounts, launched with real momentum, giving American children a $1,000 head start in ownership.
You know, I like the ownership angle here. It feels hopeful. $1,000, I'm like, oh, $1,000, what's that mean? But you start to think of compounding investments and interest, like, This is interesting.
It is interesting. It's exciting. If we can fix just a few tiny things that need to be fixed. They're not tiny. They're big things. We've got an important guest to help us unpack this and discuss some of the key guardrails. It's our friend Mark Minella from Financial Issues. He's got can be found at financialissues.org, and he serves as the host and the lead analyst for Financial Issues Stewardship Ministries. As the primary on-air voice and a guiding hand behind the ministry's investment strategy, Mark helps believers navigate today's financial markets with clarity, discipline, and biblical conviction. He has more than 35 years' experience in investing and financial leadership. He's widely recognized as a pioneer in biblically responsible investing, which is BRI. His work is consistently focused on helping individuals align their financial decisions with their faith without sacrificing prudence, diligence, or long-term perspective. Mark Minella, welcome aboard the Pirate Money ship.
Well, Kevin, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
You know, we've got some exciting news. I want to talk about the good first, and then we'll get into the challenges. But this is amazing. If you put $1,000 aside for someone born on July 4th, let's say, on our 250th birthday of America, $1,000 seed, you made no further contributions, and you follow the S&P 500's historical return by age 67, I had Grok work it out for me, and it showed up $804,000. You put aside $1,000, they retire at 67, and they have $804,000 in the Trump account. That's pretty amazing.
You make that sound so easy. Why did I not do that?
It's a serious impact, absolutely. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when IRAs came in, and something similar was said about that too. You know, if you put $1,000 away, the same thing would go through. But this is different because this is our government taking our taxpayer dollars, putting it in an account for any baby born, citizen born in the United States. Now, the implications of this are incredibly good. I mean, think about the impoverished world. Oftentimes it's generation after generation, so they can't break free from this. But this could be one of those things for those who embrace it properly. It could break impoverishment. It could break the poverty cycle that goes on. Now, I understand it also could be used and abused. You know, at 18, they could take it out and go buy a car or spend it on something, terrible like drugs or something.
Or college at a liberal university. That would be something even worse.
Or even worse than the drugs, right? University. There's all sorts of things that could happen, but it gives people the opportunity to break free of that cycle of poverty. I mean, imagine being 25 years old and realizing that you have $25,000, $30,000 in an account you never even looked at because mom and dad forgot to tell you about it or whatever, but now you want to start a business. You could do that with that money. You could break out of that neighborhood and break into being a businessman in your own business. Start a company, or like you said, you could go to school. You could even go to a Christian school with that. There's no limit on where you could go. So there's all sorts of positive aspects of this to help our country. It actually, after a while, if this stayed in place, if they continue to do this, it actually could even have a small impact on the 50 to 60 some trillion dollars that's in the stock market, it could actually cause that to stabilize a little bit because it wouldn't be highly traded anymore. It would stabilize, some base stocks and whatnot.
Well, let's talk about the wealth gap for a bit, because one of the big complaints by young people is I don't have the same opportunity, and there's truth in that. And we'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about private equity versus public equity. We'll talk about, are we giving the money to the right place and so forth? Is this adding to the deficit? There's some downsides to this, but overall, the structural idea of giving young people ownership stake in America. This is what, do you remember when we had Star Parker, Mike? We had in studio on Economic War Room. She said the wealth gap is an ownership gap. Mm-hmm. And if you can't own anything, if you're living hand to mouth and you're living, I get just enough money to last to the end of the month, or maybe not even last to the end of the month, those people don't own anything. And we're talking about an ownership gap that if you have a piece and a stake in America's future and American companies, you're less likely to turn against America.
It's a new war on poverty, but in a positive way, because it causes a mind shift. It's not, okay, what's somebody to give me? It's what can I grow? And then as I start to see I've got something that grows, that becomes a little bit, it's inspiring. It's like, wow, that keeps growing. I don't want to necessarily touch that. Let me work on something else over here. Or I do want to do that to invest.
Yeah, go ahead.
You
Mark.
know what else it does is capitalism. Think about this. How negative capitalism is in the media right now with all the socialists, communists, and everybody else trying to take over our country. They berate capitalism as being all about selfishness and greed and billionaires. But the reality is capitalism is the only form of economics that have brought people out of poverty. And this is showing exactly how that works. Think about this. Yeah, $1,000 going in there, but did you know there's literally tens of billions of dollars going in from private corporations right now, from like Dell and others that are just dropping money into, and the way they say it is into Trump accounts in low income zip codes. So effectively, even SpaceX, the president of SpaceX is putting millions of shares into accounts in impoverished zip codes. Think about that. This is capitalism at its best, and it's showing how it really works. It's showing that capitalism does take people out of poverty. Capitalism gives everybody the opportunity to do more than what they could do just on their own, and definitely encourages them to do more by seeing, like you were saying there, by seeing, wow, this, 18 years of watching this compound, you really can make things grow. You really can do some great things. So I think it's a wonderful idea, the Trump accounts, but it's got one very big issue.
All right, we're going to get to the issue, Mark. We got a whole hour, and we're going to talk about some of the negatives. And I know what your issue is. I've been watching your stuff, and you're a true leader in all this. But right now, let's celebrate the notion, the idea of ownership. and I remember as a kid, I said, "What is this in my little box?" And that is a U.S. savings bond. And I said, "What is it? What's a U.S. savings bond?" "Oh yeah, your grandparents bought you this bond when you turned 1, and they put $10 or $100 or whatever in the U.S. savings bond, and it's going to mature. And when it matures, you're going to have that money." And I thought, well, that is so cool. And I had that savings bill. This is even better because it's invested in growth. It's Mark, you're a financial planner. We both know that when you're younger, you ought to have more tilting to stocks, and when you're older, you get more tilting to bonds. But we did the opposite, and savings bonds. Was a 1-year-old, I was given a savings bond, which had no growth potential. It was just reaping interest, and it got crushed by inflation because I was a kid of the 60s and the 70s, and the value of that got crushed. Hey, we're talking about money, and there are only 3 things you can do with your money. You can give it or spend it or invest it. Here at Pirate Money Radio, we work to explain solutions that support all 3 areas in a way that promotes liberty, security, and values. Patriot Mobile, it's a mobile phone company that supports the Pirate Money radio program. Patriot Mobile uses U.S. carriers including AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile and operates on both Apple and Android phones. More information about the Economic War Room and Patriot Mobile is available at piratemoneyradio.com/AFR. That's piratemoneyradio.com/AFR. And Mark, you talk about money all the time, and you talk about how it's an indication of where your heart is. And here, Trump accounts, we're investing in the future of America. Where's your treasure? Our treasure's young people, and we're investing in them. And from that perspective, we're doing something good, right?
Absolutely. There's so many good things about it. And I'm so proud of this administration to come up with such a great thing. Here's one. It doesn't go through an NGO to get distributed to whoever the NGO thinks deserves it. And that's only a fraction of what gets to the NGO because, of course, going through all these agencies the normal way, most of the money goes away and doesn't get to the end game.
All right, we're with the great Mark Minella. We will be back with more after this.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to Pirate Money Radio with your host, Kevin Freeman.
All right, we're talking about the bad, the good, and the beautiful. Only here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In this case, the good is Trump accounts. We're investing in the future of America. We're picking young people, not because of any specific thing. We're saying every young person ought to have an equal opportunity in America and be an owner of America. And so the government has put $1,000 aside for each person born in the United States if they establish a Trump account. It's easy, free money. We should all do this, I think. Mark, can you walk us through how Trump accounts work in simple terms? And I promise you, we will get to how we fix this because you found a flaw in it that needs to be addressed, and we will be promoting the answer to the flaw, and you've got it, and that's what's beautiful. But how do Trump accounts work in simple terms?
Well, in simple terms, it's really easy. Now I just read a new release that the Social Security Administration is going to automatically enroll all new babies in the United States in the Trump account. So you don't even have to go out to do it now. They'll automatically be enrolled, and that $1,000 will be put in their account for them. So that's a good thing. If you already have a child that was born between January 1st and now, or January 1st of 2025, you can go into you can go out to the IRS and just look at the Trump accounts for all. Actually, that's what TrumpAccountsForAll.com is a good place to go. But the IRS, you can go to and look at how to set that up. It's very simple. It's a very simple application to get it set up and going. And then once you do that, $1,000 is dumped into that account and invested. And that's what we're going to be talking about here once you unbridle this horse who has something to say about that.
Yeah. You know, I like hearing about the generosity of folks like the Dells that are adding billions on top of the government seed that's out there. Talk a little bit about how that kind of partnership builds momentum as well.
Well, that's a really interesting thing because there's so much that is going into that. It's just not the government or our taxes going into it, but there's just literally hundreds now. Here, Michael and Susan Dell, $6.25 billion committed. Ray and Barbara Dalio.
That's to give away $6.25 billion.
to put into Trump accounts on top of the $1,000. Reported 75 million committed. Brad Gershner from Invest America reported that they're putting in $250 to eligible children in their state of Indiana. I mean, I could go on this list. I'm scrolling down it here just over and over. And then you get into banking and financial services. I'm just going to read some of the names of people, organizations donating to these: Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, BNY, Citi, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Charles Schwab, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, NASDAQ, Russell, SoFi, Chime, Robinhood, Coinbase, Kraken, Micron, Intel, IBM, NVIDIA, Broadcom, CrowdStrike. So what we're saying, and a whole lot more, of corporations are getting involved. Now, a lot of these corporations, what they're doing is they're matching what the parents are putting in. And you can put on in, you just don't have to start with, you just don't have to end with that $1,000 that we put in as taxpayers. You can go beyond that, up to $5,000 a year as a parent or as a grandparent, and then these others also can go into it too.
The beautiful part about that is this isn't a tax. The beautiful part of this isn't a tax. This is actually private businesses and individuals saying, "Hey, we want to help make a difference out there."
Well, let me describe the potential of this, because if you put aside, with the help of some of these corporations and others, essentially less than $500 a month, for little over $400 a month. That's $5,000 a year, and you do it just for the first 18 years, which is all you can do. The Trump accounts, you stop contributing when your child hits age 18. But if you leave it untouched, you put $90,000 in, which, by the way, is about what a 4-year college costs, even with all of the help that you're getting and everything else. By the time that your child retires, assuming just the results of the past from S&P 500, and we, Mark, you and I know, past performance does not guarantee future results and all that, but using the government's own figures, by age 67, which is retirement age, your child could have between $27 and $36 million just from putting in that $5,000 a year with the help of all these others. This is very hopeful. Now, there are some real concerns that we're going to talk about. You're going to get to share right after we come back from this break, Mark, and we'll talk about the problems and the fixes. How do we make it work? We'll be right back.
Gold holds its value far better than the US dollar. Let's see what happens when I go in this sweet shop and pay with gold. Can I pay with gold?
I mean, you can wait, find out how much it costs.
Do you know what? Basically, do you know why I'm even using gold?
I do not.
It holds its value over time, but it's a bit difficult to spend, isn't it? Do you take this?
Yes.
That's MasterCard. Yeah, but this is. I'm actually going to pay with gold, believe it or not. Using this. That's my MasterCard, and it's linked to my gold wallet. So let's just watch that. Authorizing. Yeah, add a tip.
Thank you.
So this is your store?
Yes, sir.
And how much gold did I pay?
0.2243 grams.
Yeah, success. Bought with gold, paid with glitz.
Pirate Money Radio, helping you give, spend, and invest in ways that align with liberty, security, and values. Welcome back with your host, Kevin Freeman.
Yes, and Mike Carter, the co-host, and I are talking with the great Mark Minella, and we're talking about the beautiful opportunity that the Trump administration and the Congress have given us in Trump accounts to invest in our future, to invest in children, to help make everybody part of the ownership society so that we have a brilliant American future and we win, for another 250 years, America stays on top. These are all great things, and we've been very optimistic, but you and I both have a couple of concerns. One of them I had, and one of them that you brought to me reading and listening to your stuff. First, my concern, should the government be borrowing more money to fund these accounts? And second, with birthright citizenship rulings, how do we make sure these benefits primarily go to true American citizens? Mark, what are your thoughts on those two? And then I know the much bigger one for you, which I agree with entirely on BRI. But first, let's deal with the debt and the citizenship.
Yeah, it's a sad thing that we have to borrow to do this. As you know, Kevin, you've heard me, we've talked about this before. One of the biggest risks in the United States is its debt. It is a huge risk. When we get to a point, right now we're approaching $4 trillion right now. Think about that.
$40 trillion, that's a lot of money.
We're paying over $1 trillion a year in interest on that debt. Okay. When that sinks in, which it can't because it's so big a number, think about this. We are continuously going on debt, and it's not just Republicans and it's not just Democrats. It's actually Congress in general. They don't seem to be able to get it under control. Spending has become the norm. Borrowing money to finance everything has become the norm in the United States for the Congress. Those who are supposed to be protecting us and putting us first, they are actually putting us in so much debt we can't deal with it. Well, they didn't put aside money out of the budget or the income tax or anything like that. They're just borrowing it to do this as well. Unfortunately, that is a very sad thing, because this is one of the programs that I think should be above so many other programs that are out there doing absolutely nothing, especially those that are going overseas through 14 different NGOs to end up putting less than a penny of every dollar going through these things to the cause that they said they're going to use it for. There's so much graft, so much greed. In fact, I read a report recently, if we could get rid of the fraud, if we could get rid of just the fraud and the waste, we could recover over $1 trillion a year in our budget.
That would cover our interest right there. That would be a huge difference. Yeah,
Imagine that. Yeah.
And what you said also, we talked about it a little bit, is the notion from this birthright citizenship ruling from the Supreme Court that a drug dealer could bring his girlfriend here, she has a baby here, and they get a Social Security card, and the next thing you know, the taxpayers are putting $1,000 into that drug dealer's family.
Yeah, and we've all heard about how China is sending literally thousands of people over a month to have babies here, and then just taking them and going home, because now they got a citizenship and can come and go as they please. They can vote. They can influence our country in many, many ways. Now we're going to pay them to do that, $1,000 to do that.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable to me. Kevin, with your background in economics and your Cherokee heritage, how do you see the citizenship question playing out here?
Well, the Congress needs to get a hold of this. It's a congressional fix, and they need to define what it means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They defined it for my grandfather in 1908, born in Oklahoma in Indian Territory. They said he wasn't a citizen because he was a member of the Cherokee Nation. And then in 1924, they corrected that. They can correct this. They can say, look, unless you're here legally, you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And especially if you get taken home immediately. So they can fix this, and we need that fix. But there's a bigger challenge here. And Mark, we're going to have to address this, because the problem is 88% of the S&P 500 companies have BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street as their single largest shareholder. And you and I both know BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street have had some questionable motives in their proxy votes and what they intend to do with the money. They don't have a biblical worldview. And for Christians, it's anathema to invest in companies that are voting to make Disney woke and anti-American values. And that's the real problem we're going to have to address. And Mark, you're going to be unleashed. I'm going to let you let it rip when we come back after this break. We'll be right back.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
Welcome to Pirate Money Radio with your host, Kevin Freeman, helping you unpack the economic headlines and providing real money solutions.
Yeah, and we're joined by Mike Carter as co-host and Mark Minella, who is going to share with us. You're going to be completely unleashed in this, our longest block of the program. And Mark, before we start, tell us where people can follow you, and then I'll ask you the key question.
Financialissues.org. We're live on the air Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You could go to financialissue.org. And then on Saturdays, we have another show where it's called Stewardship Today that we just launched, Michael and Kevin, I'm sorry.
Well, Mike and Kevin
got
were
a Michael
both
here as well.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you're on Saturdays.
But I heard you say
us.
Mike and I said Michael, so sorry about that.
Yeah, so Saturday you've got a program. Pirate Money Radio is our Saturday program, so it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But all right, so Mark, here's the reality. Bible-believing Christians should not be investing in things that destroy the values of America and future generations, and you preach on this. I mean, you're a preacher on this from an economic and financial perspective. Tell us what is the danger with Trump accounts and how do we fix it?
Okay, let's start with the Bible. How about that, Kevin? 1 Thessalonians 5:21-22. Test all things, hold fast what is good, abstain from every form of evil. When it says test all things, what does all include? Everything, right?
Yeah, all.
Including our investments. So we should be, as Christians, if we consider ourselves stewards, which most Christians do, because that's what the Bible tells us we are, we're stewards of whatever God has entrusted to us that should be used to His glory. It should be used for His purposes to His glory. And if we do that, why would we ever want to become a partner in a company that's involved in abortion or pornography or using and abusing God's children? Well, what we just talked about with these Trump accounts, there's only one investment it can go into, and it's an S&P 500 index fund. And that index fund has over 70% of its investments involved in abortion, pornography, sexual immorality, anti-family, anti-God promoting anti-God and anti-family beliefs. It's just horrendous what they're investing in. And as a Christian, if I buy a stock, I become an owner. That's what buying stock does. You become an owner of that company. You may be only 1/1,000,000th, but you're still an owner. And because of that, you're participating in whatever that company does. As you know, Kevin, that's what biblical responsible investing is all about. It's about only investing in those companies that do not compromise God's tenets of love, by investing only in that honors God. And by doing that, we actually impact society. And I've seen it over and over again. If you want to know why our society is where it's at, follow the money to the top, and the top is Wall Street. And it's Wall Street who determines what the message is out there. It's Wall Street that is determining the message on ESG. It's Wall Street that's determining these messages on equality and all these terms that they've redefined to mean something that they really don't. And if we can take the money away from, not invest in those companies that are doing that actually are killing babies, that actually are producing the pornography and the ugliness that we see on all the streaming sites, then we can actually change the course for our children and our children's children. It really can happen. So they don't give you a choice, though. So effectively, Trump accounts for all is not for all, but it's for all but the faithful. That's what it's coming down to. So, because as a believer, I would rather not have that $1,000 than have that money go into buy a stock and partner my baby with abortion, pornography, sexual immorality, promoting LGBTQ, promoting transsexuality and all the ugliness that is out there.
Mark, what can parents and grandparents do? What are practical steps they can take right now? Maybe alongside of this, maybe within it. What's your advice there?
You know, this is a hard decision for a lot of people and easy for others, like you and me, Mike. It's easier for us to say, you know, I don't want to participate in this if I have to buy a stock for my baby that kills babies. You know, it's kind of easy for us not to do that. But for others, it's difficult. The biblical responsible investing journey is fairly new. I mean, it's been going on, you know, Art and I and Dan Celia and a bunch of people in the early 90s really got it started. But it's a reality of what it means to love God and to trust him. What you can do right now, you can go out to whitehouse.gov and hit the contact button and actually leave President Trump a little email. Say, Mr. President, I want to participate, but I don't want to participate in abortion, pornography, sexual immorality, use and abuse of people, addictive products. I don't want to be involved in that. Please give us an option to invest with biblical integrity. Don't force us Christians to compromise who we are and what we believe to participate in this wonderful thing called Trump Accounts for Kids.
Yeah,
you can do that right now. You can go out there right now and leave that. And if we get gobs of people, you also could go to TrumpAccountsForAll.com and sign the petition that we started at Financial Issues. That we're already sending to every congressman, every senator. We're trying to hand deliver some. We've had some people, Kevin, actually who know senators and congressmen actually hand deliver it themselves and talk to them about it. We're getting some momentum on this, and with people like you, Kevin, with the following you have and the dedicated patriots that you have and Christians, you'll be able to get more and more people to put this on the forefront so that something happens. Something
you
big
know,
happens.
it reminds me a little bit of the thrift savings plan. You know, and I have a son-in-law and daughter that's in the Air Force. That they were forced to give money to companies that were funding weapons pointed against them. It made no sense at all.
Yeah, they were investing in China and companies that our own Defense Department said are on the restricted list, and yet and we addressed that and we took it to as a petition and they fixed it. And I hope it's still fixed. We need to go back and check. But here's what I'm going to do, Mark. We're going to take this. I'll take it to Dr. Ben Carson, and we'll take it to Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. They lead the Religious Liberty Commission that President Trump established. They both have direct access to the president, and we'll see if we can't get an option added. And that's all we're talking about. We're talking about option added for people to invest in a way that doesn't violate their values. This should be a simple and easy fix. And if you're interested and you want to see a fix done, give us the location again where they can go and sign that petition.
TrumpAccountsForAll.com.
TrumpAccountsForAll.com. This is such an important thing because, look, I've said this, not one penny is what Art Alley would say and wrote in his book. And of course, we don't have pennies anymore. Did Art get pennies banned? Is that what? No, I'm kidding. But we just had Art on the program here just a couple of weeks ago. Art's a dear friend, and not one penny. You don't want one penny. And you look at Disney as an example. I would invest so quickly in Disney if they would return to the family-friendly principles that they had a couple of decades ago. I would invest so easily, so quickly in it. And you know what? When they turned against family-friendly, guess what? Their stock has gone nowhere for 5 years. One of the biggest name brand companies in the world, and their stock has gone nowhere. Why? What happened? Well, they stopped making good movies, and they started promoting LGBTQ plus into everything. When you can
started lecturing us all.
When you can take the Toy Story, which every grandparent in America wants to take their grandkids to see a Toy Story movie so they can go and they can see the toys they played with as kids and they had as kids. They want to take, and then they show up and Buzz Lightyear's got a gay kiss scene in the movie. It's like, they won't even show that in Saudi Arabia. And Disney made that on purpose, knowing it would lose money. Well, look, that's not stewardship. That is
not at all. And another place you could go is out to financialissues.org, and that's the simplest. And just find you could sign the petition there. But do leave an email for the president, and do call your senator and your congressman. Let's get this done. If we do this, this will bring biblical responsible investing to the forefront and make it so even Christians can participate in a wonderful thing like Trump accounts for kids.
All right. Support for this program comes from Glint Financial Technology Service, offering a debit card and mobile app that enables users to access gold holdings for everyday purchases. With Glint, users maintain ownership of allocated physical gold stored in a managed vault. At the time of a transaction, gold is sold in real time to cover the purchase amount in local currency. Glint offers an alternative way to store and use the value, combining gold and silver with modern payment infrastructure. Glint clients can monitor their gold balance, view transaction history, and manage their account through the Glint app, available on major mobile platforms. More details about how vaulted physical gold can be used as money are available at glintpay.com/gold247. Again, glintpay.com/gold247. Glint, providing access to gold for modern spending. We'll be right back with Mark Minella after this break.
I'm outside Babes, which I'm told is the quintessential chicken restaurant here in Roanoke, Texas. Let's go and see if we can buy the food in here, chicken with gold.
This is gonna be the fried chicken.
This is unbelievable. How am I going to fit all this in? I seriously actually don't know how to begin with this. This is so overwhelming. Do you think I can pay with gold?
I don't know. You may have to ask the cashier. I don't handle it.
Can I pay with gold? But actually, you said I could pay with this? Okay, I'm gonna pay with this, but I'm gonna pay with gold. So look at the price of gold going up. That's pretty cool, yeah? Right, this is Babes, yeah? How much gold did I pay? Gold, how many grams?
0.26.
0.26, quarter of a gram of gold. How about that?
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah. Success! Bought with gold, paid with glint.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
Welcome back to Pirate Money Radio with your host, Kevin Freeman.
And I'm joined by Mike Carter. Mike, I just had an idea. What if we went a step further? Not only sign the petition and tell President Trump we want biblically responsible investment, what if we started lining up good, godly Christian corporations that said, hey, I'm going to add to this, just like Michael Dell has done, just like the Dalio family and Robinhood, MasterCard, and others, but only if, Mr. President, we love your idea, you got to praise him, you got to thank him, and we'll put money behind it only if you will add a biblically responsible option to people. I think that would help get some attention.
Yeah. That's really interesting, Kevin, because we just had that discussion as another way to approach this is to start rounding up all the Christian led corporations to do exactly that. I love it. And maybe you could head that up and make it happen.
We'll call to Chick-fil-A, we'll call to Hobby Lobby, we'll call to all the great, there's a lot of great, Nutramax and all these other great corporations that believe in biblical values and say, Mr. President, you did a great thing. Now let's just tweak it to make it even better so Christians aren't excluded. I know that message will resonate with him. And if we get Dr. Carson, we just had Dr. Carson on this program. He's a dear friend. We just had him here at Liberty Hawk just a few weeks ago. Get Dr. Carson, get Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and others. I'm going to make that to-do on my list. I don't need any more to-dos on my list, but I'll put that on my honey-do list.
That fits so well with our solution to action tank. How do we take these ideas and make sure they're executed and provide real-world solutions? And that does it. And that aligns so well, Kevin, with the work we're doing at the NSIC Institute, where people are aligning their money with their values that stand for liberty, security, and values. So this all ties together in a beautiful way, and I'm excited about it.
So we're going to bring up some financial issues, and we're going to have you, Mark, help carry this, and we'll work together. We will work with you on getting corporations to say, yes, we'll do this wonderful Trump thing with one minor tweak and just stop excluding Christians from taking this money.
Well, I'm honored that you're getting on board, because you do have such great affluence and influence in politics and in the Christian community in America. So thank you so much for that, Kevin. This is really big. It's really important, and it'll bring investing with biblical integrity to the forefront. And I really believe if Trump knew what was going on with this, he would immediately make the change, or those that should make the change would do it. I believe that he would want this to happen. He just doesn't know yet, and nobody's been able to help him to be able to see this yet or bring it to his attention. You might have the influence to do that.
Well, I know Dr. Carson has the influence to do that. I know that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has the influence to do that, and we know both of them, and we will bring this to their attention and see if they won't take it to the president, because this is a religious liberty issue. Frankly, we'll take it to Kelly Shackelford, who's also on that commission, and others that are good friends. I'm on Kelly's board. We'll do whatever we can to say, hey, look, great idea, Mr. President. Now let's make it available to Christians as well as all Americans.
Yeah. And
you know, when Christians start activating their faith, good things happen. You know, when secularism activates their faith, ugly things happen to our society. Darkness just goes through our society. But when Christians activate their faith, we see the righteousness of God just pour out on our society as well. And that's what will happen here when we all come together to do this.
You know, and so often Christians, they hear what the world is saying, like, well, maybe I better be quiet because they don't understand my view. We got to do the opposite. We got to lean into this. We got to step into it and help people understand that their actions do make a difference.
Well, Jesus said, Luke 16:11, he said, if you're not faithful with your unrighteous mammon, you will not be trusted with true riches. The way to be faithful with unrighteous mammon is to make sure it's promoting liberty, security, and values, biblical principles, truth, and so that it enables the sharing of the gospel rather than restricts it. And again, this is some of those companies that are managing money, they intend to restrict the gospel. They intend to sell us out into not liberty, security, and values, but quite the opposite. And Mark, you've been sounding the alarm on this. I told you I would give you your chance to bring it out, and we're going to step in with you and see if we can't help you. And our audience, you listeners, either to the podcast or American Family Radio or Real Life Network, you guys are powerful. Learn more about this. And again, Mark, tell us where we can learn more, and if people want to get active, where do they go?
Well, I really would suggest you come out to financialissues.org. Financialissues.org, we have some flyers out there about it. You also can sign the petition there. There's so much you can do there to learn about stewardship in general.
All right, we'll be right back after this break.
Washington said paper money opens the door to every species of fraud and injustice. Jefferson said paper is poverty. Hamilton said to emit an unfunded paper as the sign of value ought not to continue a formal part of the Constitution. The founders hated paper money, so they put a pirate money clause in the Constitution for our state to use. Learn more at transactionalgold.com.
Pirate Money Radio, helping you give, spend, and invest in ways that align with liberty, security, and values. Welcome back with your host, Kevin Freeman.
I'm joined by Mike Carter. Mike, isn't Mark an amazing guest?
It is. It's great to see the communities working together to help drive liberty, security, and values. And so often people are not aligning their investments with their values. Mark, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm so honored to be here with you, gentlemen. It's just a blessing to see what can happen when Christians get their mind together, isn't it?
Yes.
It is, and we should have our mind together. We should have the mind of Christ, and we should be joining in unity, in one accord. I don't care what denomination you come from, the notion or the idea that your investment should align with your values should be universal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect anything less from the left.
Well, I mean, everybody knows Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Well, Kevin, that's what you've been doing for years, is exposing the unfruitful works of darkness. And today what we want to do is help people to realize they shouldn't have a fellowship with any company that is doing all these ugly anti-God, anti-family, anti-birth, anti-morals organizations and companies. And people say, well, I don't think any companies really do that. Did you know this? You want to hear one of the stupidest ones I've ever heard?
Sure, please.
Gerber used to give money to Planned Parenthood. Think about that. A baby food manufacturer was given money to Planned Parenthood, who killed more babies than anybody else in the world. I mean, it's just not wrong. It's stupid.
Well,
you know.
I'll go along that same vein. ExxonMobil, they elected directors to ExxonMobil who decided they wanted to end the fossil fuel industry. And who allowed that? Who allowed that? It was the same people managing the Trump account funds, the same big three that were, there was a little activist investor, and they got the shareholder votes, the proxy votes from the big three. We got warned against this. Yeah. The founder of the index fund industry, John Bogle, wrote shortly before he died, he said, I love index funds. I think they're phenomenal, but what I don't like is when they vote against the interests of America, and I don't think you should concentrate that power, that voting power, in the big three, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. And then he died shortly thereafter. But that was an important warning, and we shouldn't have our votes going for bad things, and we shouldn't be forced, if you want to participate in a government program, to invest in things that run contrary to our values. Okay, Mark.
Remember what Trump said, though, when he was campaigning. Evangelicals don't realize the power they have if they would work together and get active. And that's what we're talking about doing today.
That's exactly. So, Mark, sum up for us. Trump account's good. Being forced to invest against your values bad. And then the solution is what?
Yeah, the solution is that we need to add into it an index fund that is biblically responsible. For example, Timothy Plan has ETFs that are broad ETFs. You could add one of those into there, and that would make it so all Christians could participate without having to compromise their values and their conscience. So very simple.
Wouldn't that be great, Art? We put a Timothy Plan fund into the Trump account. Art Alley and Timothy Plan have done so much for America, investing to bring truth, supporting programs like our programs. Wouldn't that be awesome if we could have a Timothy Plan fund inside the Trump account
fund, right? Yeah. The other issue with that is that they've restricted what they can charge internally for these type of accounts. So you have to have over $1 billion in it just to break even for the cost of running an ETF. But you'd have that if we got it into the Trump accounts for all our Trump accounts for kids accounts. I think that would happen, and I'd love to honor the Timothy Plan by having them in there. If anybody, they screen, they're the strictest, and they were the pioneers for the mutual fund industry of creating mutual funds that allowed Christians to invest with integrity. They have stuck to their guns and never compromised.
Thank you, Mark, for championing biblical values in finance. All right, to learn more and sign the petition for BRI options and Trump accounts, you can visit takeaction.financialissues.org. For trusted advisors trained in biblical stewardship, you can learn more from the NSIC.org. Visit Pirate Money Radio if you want more information. All right, if you're watching on Real Life Network, thank you. Until next time, stay faithful, stay free. But if you're on American Family Radio and listening, we've got one more segment. We'll talk more with Mark Minella about Trump accounts and ways you can act. Here's a $10 bill. It's got the picture of Alexander Hamilton on the front of it. It's kind of sad. When I was 10 years old, everything that I could buy for $1 now costs about $10. That's the cost of inflation. It's just paper. It's not backed by anything. You can't exchange it for gold and silver. You used to, but you can't do that anymore. And that's unfortunate. Pirates wouldn't accept this. Pirates, they wanted gold and silver. patriots, the founders of this nation, also wanted gold and silver coin. In fact, they put a provision in the Constitution, 17 words, that said states could only make gold and silver coins tender within the states. That's why I wrote this new book, Pirate Money, Discovering the Founders' Hidden Plan for Economic Justice and Defeating the Great Reset. It will explain exactly the history of money and exactly why gold and silver coins can be made modern with new technology and a useful monetary system. PirateMoneyBook.com.
Welcome back to Pirate Money Radio with your host, Kevin Freeman.
Yeah, we're joined by Mark Minella as special guest, Mike Carter as co-host. Hey, Mark, what gives you the most hope right now? Maybe a favorite scripture on stewardship. What and how can listeners follow you?
Well, on stewardship, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. That is the definition of stewardship, doing everything for the glory of God. And stewardship encompasses everything in your life, not just your material goods, but your heart, your relationships. How about stewarding this nation, Kevin? As a steward, God gave us this nation to be stewards over. So we have to vote properly, vote in people who love the Lord and who will reduce our debt, who will have a balanced budget, who will care for and not just use and abuse his children.
Yeah, it sounds good to me, doesn't it?
It does, Mike? It does. Amen. Amen.
And what gives you hope, Mike?
You know, I love, again, the idea that we're seeing entrepreneurialism, free market capitalists in this Trump plan out there. And Kevin, it reminds me a little bit of a young Kevin Freeman when we both just out of college and you had this thing called the personal capitalists, which opened my eyes to, wow, if you invest in what you do with this and this can happen, now we can take that all the way down to baby Trump times almost now, right? The baby times. How do we start to make sure that, you know, the public is educated on the opportunities that do exist? It's not, the answer isn't democratic socialism. It's not communism. It's closing the wealth gap, and this is the way to do it.
It's ownership. And what's beautiful about this is the IRA was great. Once you start working at age 18 or 21 or whenever, then you could put a couple of $1,000s a year and you could become a multimillionaire just by putting some money aside. Trump accounts go back even further. The earlier you start, the greater it grows over time.
Amen.
And starting as a day one with $1,000, what a gift. But we've got to make sure that that gift is not being squandered or not being used against us. And so, Mark Minella, thank you so much for what you're doing in educating America on these Trump accounts. Thank you for what you're doing with financial issues. And you can learn more at financialissues.org. All right, if you have questions or prayer needs or comments, I want you to email us at afr@piratemoneyradio.com. We get a lot of questions and comments, and we answer them all, don't we, individually? Yeah. We go back, Mike, and we've got some unusual questions at times. We've got some really serious ones. You may have questions on how do I deal with these Trump accounts. And so, again, Mark, tell us one last time, where do people follow you?
Financialissues.org. Go out to financialissues.org. You can watch the show. You can stream past shows. You can participate in the live show. You can call in. You can get in the chat and ask questions while we're on the air. It's a wonderful place to go to get together with Christians and find out how you can do the most with what God has entrusted to you.
Well, God's entrusted a lot to us, and we need to pray about it because we need to be good, faithful stewards with it. We need to pray for America to return to God's principles this year. We need to pray for biblical stewardship and wise policy and strong families. So if you're listening, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or wherever. You can share this with your friends if you'd like. If you want to learn more information, check out piratemoneyradio.com. We've had a great time with Mark Minella on financial issues and Trump accounts. This is Kevin Freeman and Mike Carter, joined this week by Mark Minella for Pirate Money Radio. Stay tuned. Arr!